Welcome to another edition of Journey of Hope. Stories of real people and their journey through life, encountering different obstacles and illness and traumatic injuries. Our special guest today is Lynn from Genoa, Nevada. And he's got a very interesting story and a very interesting journey that he's going to share with us. Lou, it's good to have you here. We got people from really around the world watching. And we're glad you're here. We're going to learn a little bit about you. Tell us where you're from and where you went to school and what you majored in. I'm over here. Go ahead and just
I was born in Carthage, Illinois, and I went to Bradley University, and I majored in business and a minor in insurance. And I was in the service in the U.S. Navy, and they had me into...
So you went, after you graduated?
Before I graduated.
Before you graduated.
Because I was short of money, and they was going to stop the GI Bill, and so I went in the service to get the GI Bill, and then I came back with the GI Bill, and I was married, and I finished up school. And
did you go back to Bradley?
I went back to Bradley.
And how long did you have? Another year or two to finish up?
About a year and a half.
But this time you had some financial help.
Yeah.
Because of Uncle Sam.
Uncle Sam was helping me, my wife was working, and we did not have any children at that time.
Well, thank you, first of all, for your service. Now, when you ended up with your degree, did you have a big school bill at that point?
No. I was always very frugal, as I was born and raised in a farmland, and my mother was a farmer, and so we were taught not to spend, to save. And one of the courses I took in at Bradley said, you know, either man at work, money at work, or inherit it. Well, I knew I wasn't going to inherit it, so I knew I was going to have to work, and I thought best is to save some money too. So even when I was in college, I was trying to save money.
Even while you're going to school?
While I was going to school. I spent less than I made.
So what happened when you graduated then?
When I graduated, my wife was pregnant, and I got a new house and our first child at the same time.
So in other words, you had saved enough money to buy a new house when you graduated. Of course, houses were smaller and they were not as expensive, but still, it's all relative. So what did your degree in?
My degree was in business and a minor in insurance.
Okay, so what kind of a career did you pursue then?
Well, I started off with insurance, and I liked it, but I had an opportunity to work for this person that owned a small soft drink business, and I went there, but I saw it wasn't going anyplace, and I left and went back full-time in the insurance business. And then they came back to me, the accountant says, "You still interested in buying the bottling company?" And I said, not at his prices. He says, "No, it'll be bankrupt. You can get it really at a good price." So went in, we made an offer, 30 cents on the dollar, and everyone accepted it, and I owned a bottling company.
Now, you
29 years old.
29 years old, and you told me, how in the world did you come up with 30 cents on the dollar? What kind of a formula was that?
That formula was determined by the bank because that's all the money I could borrow on the business and my house and everything, my wife, my kids, my everything, and that's all the money I could get, and so that's what the offer was, and thank God that everyone took it, and I was in business.
So that was the bottling company. Was this in Illinois then?
Peoria, Illinois.
Okay. And then where did you go from there?
Then I made it profitable and sold it, and I, again, didn't spend my money. I took $20,000 of it and bought a small farm outside of town, contracted deed from the older lady who lost her husband, and let it pay off itself, and that helped me later on. And then I went to New York and interviewed for jobs. I took a job with Norton Simons.
In New York, so you're talking about a little Illinois farm boy going to the big city in New York. That must have been quite a change.
When I went from Peoria to New York City, it was the difference of night and day. And I tell you, it took some strong faith and belief to even go, let alone when I went up on the 37th floor, I was scared to death, and it was
It was kind of a faith experience for you then, wasn't it?
very much so.
Yeah. So anyway, you were in New York, and finally you ended up moving to Nevada
Well,
over the years.
but I first went to California with, I left Norton Simon, went with Beatrice Foods, and then I left them. We had problems, and so they were going to close that up, and so I went in business for myself into a printing company, and that's 1979. We started, and the first month I did a little over $3,000 business.
For the whole month.
For the whole month.
That doesn't sound like a real flourishing business to begin with.
Nope, I didn't know anything about it, but I had a lot of faith that I could do it. I've done other things, and I didn't know what would be different about that than anything else. And so I went into it, and today my son runs it, and last year we did $28 million.
Well, Lou, I can see that the Lord and your family, your mom and dad, they've instilled some very good business principles in you. So you kind of turn it over. Your son's pretty much running it now.
He's running it.
And you were telling me that, you know, a few years ago, there was a kind of a delicate time. Business was slow, but you kind of made a bold decision to go ahead and make some changes in your printing business.
There's some advancements in new printing techniques, some different things. But the banks weren't very friendly to us because of the Dodd-Frank bill that was passed, and the banks were very squeamish about helping people that needed help. Even though you had a good track record, even though everything else, they just, I guess the auditor, they're afraid of the auditors and what it is with the new bill. And so it was hard to get, so I had to get more involved, which I did, and I enjoyed, and we made the right decision, and we did it, and picked up a lot of new big customers and national customers, and it's...
So you made some right moves at the right time, probably a gutsy move at that time, but looking back on it, it was an intelligent decision that you made.
It was good and bad. The reason it turned out good was because the banks had this Dodd-Frank and wouldn't give people money if
For
you needed
small
it.
businesses.
For small businesses. So I was fortunate, and again, had saved my money. I'd turned that little farm that I bought, I sold that, and I developed some apartments, and I turned that $20,000 into $2 million.
That's good investing. 28,000 into 2 million. That's wonderful. So everything's going fine. You got a family. How many children?
3 children.
3 children. How many grandkids?
4 grandchildren.
4 grandchildren. So everything's going fine. And then one day you find out there's something wrong with your health.
Yes.
What's wrong?
I got prostate cancer.
You get the words, you have cancer.
That's right.
Well, how did that hit you when you found that out?
It was tough to take, but I had faith, and they...
You're a religious person. You're a Christian.
I'm a Christian.
Okay.
And I went and...
How many years ago are we talking about? Almost 15, isn't it?
15 years ago, yeah. 15 and a half years ago, I had it removed.
So you decided to go ahead with surgery.
From the time I found out I had it, and the doctor said I had a Gleason of 6, which meant it was not outside the capsule, it was still
Early stage,
and that I would be a perfect candidate for surgery and be out and everything would be fine. So, believing him, didn't check his work, didn't go to another place, didn't do anything else, and so I had him do it. Unbeknownst to me, it was not a 6, it was a 7.
So the Gleason was a little bit higher.
Which meant it was already outside the capsule.
Had that possibility.
And after the operation, it still showed that it was a 7.
So
not a 6.
the pathology report, even after surgery, indicated that it was more aggressive. So were they suggesting you're going to have some follow-up, or they were hoping they got it all?
They hoped they got it all, but they didn't, and they didn't know where to go or what to do. And so basically they said to wait and watch. I'm not a very good waiter and watching.
So you knew that something was happening. You knew they didn't get it all. So it's hard to wait to find out all of a sudden it's going to be exploding through your system.
Right. So I went to MD Anderson, and I got the head of the department, and he recommended, and this was almost 15 years ago, time I got there, and he said, there's some good studies about diet, and maybe you might want to look into that. Would you like it? And I says, is that all there is? Well, they could do radiation, but it would just tear your whole insides up, and they don't have any chemo that really works. And as I remember what he said is, if I were you, it's what I'd do.
Okay, so you know that they didn't get it all. Now, unfortunately, they didn't get yours. Sometimes surgery is very successful, even though there may be some side effects from it. But yours, they didn't get it all. And this doctor in MD Anderson is suggesting that there's some dietary approaches to kind of put things in control and hold things. So what kind of changes did you make? Did you make radical changes, or?
It was, to start with, a little slower than what it was. But it was radical from where I was, but I didn't go all the way.
So did you lean towards a vegetarian diet?
Vegetarian, yeah. I could eat a little bit of meat and that, but I pretty much stayed with fish. But they said to not eat over 3 or 4 ounces of fish or that, you know. And
how about the dairy products at that point?
They didn't say
too much about that.
They didn't say about dairy.
So you went on this, and so did that help? I mean,
Well, it kept my PSA down to almost non-detectable.
For a number of years?
For several years, but then it started up after about 4 years or so. It started raising, and I got more interested in it and got more into the diet and reading and doing, and it's very, very, very difficult to go completely vegan and not drink any alcohol. And I wasn't alcoholic, but when you go out with people and they have a glass of wine, it's nice to have a glass of wine. And I couldn't do that. And that's when I had problems, and I had to ask the Lord several times to help me stay on the diet, because you go to someone's house, well, I'm not...
They're always offering you this and that and everything except what you should be eating.
That's right.
Well, so now, when did you come to Loma Linda?
Then I went to Stanford because it was going up a little, and I got the head of the department, and she is a lady doctor, and she said, well, you know, before we do anything else, it should get higher.
The PSA.
PSA should be higher. And I said, well, you know, my PSA never ever showed much to begin with, so I don't know how truthful high is, because, as I said, the highest my PSA ever got was 2.7.
Which is reasonably low, yeah.
And to have a Gleason of 7, very low. But, so I said, you know, but she said, no, it's after surgery, then it comes back to it normal.
See what it is.
But anyway, so she said, wait. And then I found out about Loma Linda, and I thought just by chance I would come down to Loma Linda and see what
it's all about.
See what it's all about. And they said they thought, you know, if it hadn't spread too far, that they might be able to
take care of it.
Take care of it. It'd be
with protons.
With the proton beam. And I said, well, it's worth it to me to try it, and so I did. And at first, it went down for a little while, but then it started back up, and they said they didn't quite get it all. And so I went on, and it's gone, and there was a thing that I read that when your PSA, it doesn't make any difference how high or how low it is, when it starts doubling in 6 months, you got troubles.
Yeah, that's, I mean, the degree and the rapidity with which it doubles is an indication how aggressive it is. And if it begins doubling every 6 months, it's really, it's time you got to be doing something.
You got to do something.
Right.
So I went over to see another doctor that had all kinds of pills and stuff, and I went for that, and I tried it, and at first it seemed like it slowed it, but then it went on, and then I decided or read or heard that maybe gluten.
Now, are you a vegan at that point?
I'm vegan.
You're a vegan at that point,
Right.
okay. But it was still kind of bouncing around a little bit.
No, it was at that point, it was doubling.
It was doubling, okay.
And that's why I went to this other doctor.
Right,
you know,
okay.
and it didn't seem like he is working very good or very much, and they wanted to do something else, take my blood out and put it in, put something in, put it back in, and all this stuff. And at that time, I heard about gluten-free, and so I said, well, I'll try that first. So I went gluten-free. I was already lactose-free and vegan, and now I'm lactose-free, vegan, and gluten-free.
Okay, for our listening audience, you know, we have vegetarians that eat no meat or fish, but they're lacto-ovo-vegetarians. That means they eat some dairy products and eggs. But then a total vegan is only plant-based. And you're a total vegan, but now you think you've read something and somebody suggested that gluten-free could possibly help you. So did you go gluten-free?
I went gluten-free.
And what happened?
And in 6 months, my PSA had dropped in half. My tumor marker, which I also had cancer of the appendix, and it also dropped. It took both of them down in half in 6 months.
That's amazing. And the only difference is that you've been gluten-free, but now you're able to stretch and exercise, and you're getting around, and you're 82 years old.
Yes.
That's an amazing testimony. I got good news. Moses didn't get started until he was 80, but you are a remarkable testimony.
Well, you know, I know myself, and I was very stern in my working habits and what I did, but I would have never, ever gone on this diet or done what I've done if I wouldn't have got cancer.
Now, how long have you been on the diet now?
Completely like I am now? Year and a half, maybe close to 2 years.
Well, I mean, it's amazing the amount of energy that you have. And again, for our listening audience, this is what's working for you and the difference that's made in your life.
Right.
Now, you were talking about this other cancer you had. You had another cancer.
I had cancer of the appendix.
And how long ago was that?
That's 13 years ago.
So shortly, you know, a couple years after you had your prostate cancer and you're diagnosed with that. So what did they do with that?
Well, they took it out, but it's, I guess, 1 in a million or something, and no one really knew what to do. And I talked to a doctor at MD Anderson, had seen some, and he said, well, your tumor marker's in good shape. I would say you stay with your diet, and if it starts going out, give me a call. Other than that, we don't have anything.
So they removed the penicillin. I haven't heard of too many people that had a malignant appendix, but it was malignant. They removed it. So
and
you
they took
didn't have
part of my colon.
Yeah, and they didn't have any other chemo or anything like that.
They haven't been chemo for
Apparently
it.
they got it all then. They must have got it all.
Well, they didn't get it all because my tumor marker popped up and
It
down.
still was popping up and down, indicating there was still something going on there. But as a result of the last couple of years on the special diet you've been on, it seemed like it's been taking care of itself. So what does the rest of the family think about you and having this cancer and this crazy diet you're on?
My son, it's helped him because he really watches what he eats and drinks, and the doctor says he's wonderful because he'll eat a little bit of fish, but meat, he just, unless he's out someplace, and then he won't eat, but he doesn't eat much. And I have one daughter that really is really good at it, and another daughter that is pretty good, and two son-in-laws that are changing, but not as fast. But
you've got a remarkable wife that's been very accommodating to you.
You need good support.
You got to have support.
You got to have support. You cannot go on this diet and do all of this without someone to help you. Now, I asked the Lord, in fact, I thank the Lord for giving me the cancer to start with, because I know myself, I would not have changed. I would not have gone into this. I would not have done this if I didn't have cancer. But that scared me into it. Then, knowing that you should eat right and do these things is one thing. Doing it, I tell you, Lynn, it's harder than starting the first business.
Really?
Oh, you don't get to eat what you want to eat, and it's like quitting smoking, quitting alcohol, quitting dope, drugs.
Any kind of a habit.
All at once. Because
the combination.
Combination, because I cut it all out. It's sugar a lot because of cancer. They're pretty sure of that.
Sure.
And alcohol has a lot. So I can't even have, they said, well, you could have maybe one drink once in a while. How do you have one drink once in a while?
That's the problem. Most people can't have, it's like eating one potato chip.
Yeah.
Or one Dorito. There's no such thing.
You can't do it.
Right.
So
you've decided, hey, for you, it's got to be all the way.
I'm going all the way. And I did all the way, and I asked the Lord for the help. And, I take a 2-mile walk every night.
Do you?
And in my 2-mile walk, now I have a little dog that walks with me, and I talk to the Lord a little bit and thank Him for what He's done for me. And He gives me the strength. I mean, I can get down, I can do push-ups. I can do chin-ups. I can do deep knee bends.
At the age of 82.
82.
Knee bends, chin-ups, push-ups.
Right. When I was, I think in my 30s, I hurt my knee skiing. And I used to continuously get an injection in my knee because
of the pain.
The pain. I have no more pain in my knee. None.
Oh, Lou, you are a remarkable model of what somebody that's disciplined and makes the determination. And of course, living longer is only good if you experience quality of life.
People tell me, well, I can't do that because I need to eat the meat, I get to get the protein. And I said, I get plenty. In fact, my wife's nephew was out, and he was one says, oh, I got to have my meat because I exercise a lot, I go on protein. I said, okay, we'll take a hike. He couldn't keep up with me.
Well, no, you're eating right, and apparently you've got the strength and the endurance, and nobody would know you're 82 when they take off and go for a walk with you. I mean, you got to bounce to your step there, and you're alive and you're vibrant. Living longer is only good if we have quality of life.
And people tell me they don't do the diet because they don't want, don't want that kind of lifestyle. Right. Well, I don't want to take 100 pills, everything else, to stay alive. Diet is much easier, exercise is much easier, and ask the Lord for help so you can stay on it and do what's right, and He will help.
Well, Lou, you're a remarkable model and a testimony for your family and for those that you come into contact with of what God has done with your life. in every way, personally and physically and emotionally and spiritually, and the way He's blessed your business. God's still got some plans for you.
He's always been there for me.
And He always will be there for you.
Yeah.
And, you know, for our listening audience, you know, Lou, you're a wonderful example of somebody that when they're confronted with something, you don't stop. It's not a dead end for you. You're going to go over it, you're going to go through it, but you know the Lord's going to take you all the way through.
That's right.
And He's been blessing you all the way along.
Yep.
You know, for our listening audience, we've got people out there that are looking. Look into the camera and talk to the audience and tell them if they've been diagnosed, what they should do.
If you're diagnosed with cancer, first thing, you should get a second opinion. And that second opinion, and then you go from there and really think about it, ask the Lord for help, making your decisions, and you can't just rely on someone doing it for you. You've got to take control of your own life and work through God, and you can make it.
Well, that's wonderful counsel for each one of us, that we need to take responsibility for our own health, and we need to have a second opinion, and then, you know, talk to others that don't encounter the same kind of a problem or obstacle that you've encountered. And God's going to open and close doors for you. And Lou has made it very clear that he's trusted in the Lord all the way. God's waiting for you to put your trust in Him.